Hare Krishna, welcome to another conversation on the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. My name is Krishna Das. I'm serving here at ISKCON Zurich. And today's guest, which we like to talk with, is His Grace Radha Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Radha Krishna Prabhu is the GDC for Hungary, Romania, Turkey, and Greek. And thank you very much for being with us. Just like to introduce you to our audience briefly. Radha Krishna Prabhu joined ISKCON very early, actually in the age of 16 in 1994, and served as a book distributor for more than 3 years, and also became Sankirtan leader for about 7 years, served in that capacity. And later on, got married, has a wife and 2 daughters, and lives at Krishna Valley. And there he also was in many different ways serving the community, first in the ISKCON communication, PR work, then in tourism, in the preaching activities, and also was part of founding the Eco Village Foundation, which is a foundation that deals with environmental science. And actually, Radha Krishna Prabhu also has a university degree in agroeconomist and also rural development engineer. And of course, these skills, I'm sure, are very helpful on the farm in Krishna Valley. So in this way, Prabhu contributed in many different ways. Also has many other qualifications. Prabhu also is part of the local in a Majors Council of the local town. He's also active there. So has many different contacts, and in this way performs a wonderful service for ISKCON and the project, especially there also at Krishna Valley. In his free time, Radha Krishna Prabhu likes carpentry, cooking, and also, of course, reading, and reading different books, and always trying to acquire more knowledge in different fields, but certainly also reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And that's the topic today. We'd like to talk with Prabhu about reading Prabhupada's books and the importance of that. So maybe to start with, Prabhu, you could share with us how you came in contact with ISKCON. I mean, we mentioned you joined in a very early age with 16. I remember with 16 I did many other things. So what was your first contact with Srila Prabhupada's books? Do you remember who gave you a book, and which book was it?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you again, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, for inviting me here. It is my great honor to be here with you all on YouTube and Facebook and wherever this video will go on. Yes, I was really fortunate. I remember, well, the first memory I have of devotees is that we were walking down the street with my family, and I was holding on my dad's hand. That's what I remember. And we saw a lot of people in saffron cloth sitting in the main square in front of a theater and just doing bhajan. And we were just walking by and nothing else. And I don't know how old I could be. But, well, at that time, of course, I was interested in many other things, playing in the school and all the general children stuff. And, well, I was a folk dancer, and I was a semi-professional football player. Semi-professional because I stopped that at the age of 16. So I never got to the adults team, but well, at the age of 16 I joined ISKCON, and I was still in high school. I was in the 2nd grade in high school. That's the 10th grade, if we count the grades, and. It was in May when I joined, and right before that, that was 1993, Christmas marathon when I met a devotee. I remember it was snowing, and it was the same street where I saw the devotees doing bhajan many years back. And I still don't know who that could have been. Either it was Balaram Prabhu or it was Gaura Shakti Prabhu. I don't know who that was. They were distributing Bhagavad Gitas and Ishopanishads. And I saw the Ishopanishad and I got really excited because there was Sanskrit in them. And I just did not have money with me. So I told them, okay, well, I'm really interested. Will you be here tomorrow? They said, yeah, we will be here. So I just took the book, put it in my bag, and just ran off with the book. And I said, I'm coming back tomorrow and I'll pay. And I was there and I was looking for them and they were not there. They just disappeared. I had the Lakshmi. Since then, I tried to repay, and it seems I couldn't because I'm here. So I'm still paying my debts to that devotee who I just stole the Ishopanishad from. And I went home and I just opened it, and I didn't even read that. I didn't even read that at that time. And it was really interesting because, well, it was 1993. So 93 during summertime, I was in a Reiki club, and someone invited me to a Hare Krishna festival, and I said, "Wow, really, Hare Krishna? I mean, you mean you want to invite me to a religious festival?" I said, "No way. I'm my own boss. No religion, no God. Leave me alone." So that was 1993 during the autumn, and then I got that Ishopanishad in December, and then next May there was a festival, and that was held by Shivaram Swami, and I attended that. I did not have an invitation, so I just went in and sat at the backmost seat possible so that no one would see that I'm there, especially not from the Reiki club. so I was just there and I listened to the bhajan that was really captivating. And Maharaj was speaking about philosophy, and he spoke about such a high philosophy in such simple words that everyone could understand who was there. So I immediately wanted to buy a Bhagavad Gita. And I did not have that much money with me. I had enough Lakshmi to buy a Krishna book. So Sripati Prabhu sold me a Krishna book, and when I opened it, I saw that there is no Sanskrit in it. And I said, no, this is not possible. I want a book that has Sanskrit in it. So I just gave that back. And then we agreed that later on, there will be a program and I will be able to bring some more Lakshmi. But he just gave me the Bhagavad Gita. And I was so happy. I went home. And at that time, I was living with my mom, with my grandma, and was that my mom's sister's daughter, my cousin. So we were living together, the four of us, in two small rooms, and I just got home at 9 o'clock in the evening, and I immediately started reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I did not stop until the morning. I was so fascinated by everything that was in there, and I started learning Sanskrit. Still, I don't know Sanskrit, unfortunately, but it was just so fantastic. I was just there up whole night and was just reading. And the next day I had to go to school, and 16-year-old, 10th grade, I'm in the high school. I went in there, and well, it was just such a fantastic time. And later on, when was that? So this was in May, and it was in the autumn, in like October or something like that. Maybe even a whole year later, because it was springtime. Next year, 1995, I just went up to the high school principal, who after that became a really good friend of mine. And I just told him, I started practicing Krishna consciousness. And he said, yeah, I know that. I can see you with that something hanging on your neck, and you have something in it, like like beads or something. And I said, yeah, those are my japa beads. And he said, yeah, it would be so good to wash that bag once in a while. I said, okay. Thank you so much for pointing that out. So I told him that, what do you think about inviting the head priest to come to school, and he could speak about biology and physics and some of these things, because that's his expertise, and he's a fantastic philosopher. So why not to have the Vedic view of biology and physics and literature and all of. And I could invite Shivaram Maharaj to my high school for a full day. He was giving 5 classes, and the whole school knew that I became a Krishna devotee. And it was just so fantastic. After that, no one asked any questions about why I'm vegetarian, and they started really appreciating what I was doing. Of course, they did not appreciate that I quit our soccer team, because I just did not have enough time for that. But yeah, it was fantastic. So books, right there, books are the basis. And for my Krishna consciousness journey, or my journey in Krishna consciousness, was also founded on books. And of course on prasadam. That's just how it is.
That's amazing, like that you immediately also started to share Krishna consciousness by inviting Maharaj to the school. That's wonderful. But yeah, we can see.
Isn't that something that's in the books immediately?
Yes. But you can see a wonderful example how Srila Prabhupada's books are so potent just by reading. So many devotees, join the movement just by getting in touch with Prabhupada's books.
Yeah.
Of course, and even once we join, then naturally we want to read and continue studying Srila Prabhupada's books. Like in general, just basic statement on why do you feel it's important that devotees, even if you already have read some of the books and you know the philosophy, we do need to regularly read Prabhupada's books. Why do you think that's so important for all of us?
Well, just a little bit back to the other topic of getting the books and starting Krishna consciousness that way. What was really helpful for me, that I always had those devotees around me who were studying and who helped me how to study the books, and they were explaining things to me, and it was. What I found out is that it is always important to surround ourselves with those people who can help us in advancing in Krishna consciousness. And for some devotees, it is devotees who are philosophers or who like to study. For some devotees, it's something else. For some devotees, it's, I like to be around devotees who like singing. I like to be around devotees who like cooking. I like to be around devotees who like eating also. And I like to be with leaders of any kind. in Krishna consciousness or not in Krishna consciousness, because I think that that helps me in my service. So when it comes to reading, I think that that is such a foundational activity for each and every one of us. No matter what we would like to achieve in life, reading is there because we are lifelong learners. Krishna consciousness is not something that, well, I read the Bhagavad Gita once, so I know the philosophy. That's all. I'm right. I'm okay. I read the Bhagavatam, well, not the full, but half of it. Chaitanya Charitamrita, well, yeah, I heard all the stories from it, from classes. That's not enough. That's not enough. So for us, when we really would like to share the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness with others, and the happiness and the joy that we received from Srila Prabhupada, then for us it is really important to understand what is our philosophy. And it is just obvious that we have to study the books. Reading is not enough. Reading, it's like, it's okay, it's a casual thing. It's a casual thing, but it is definitely not enough. Just 1 second, I just have to change from my earbuds, okay, to the computer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you properly.
Okay, fantastic. So we have to study the books, not just read. Reading is very good, but studying is a completely different level of understanding the philosophy. So I think that it is really crucial for everyone who are in ISKCON to stop reading and start studying. And when we speak about studying, there are two kinds of study. One study is a systematic study of a book, like a systematic study of the Bhagavad Gita, that we understand the whole book, we understand the bigger picture, we understand how it is divided up into 3 parts, how the different chapters are divided up, why Krishna is speaking about those things, what are the questions of Arjuna. So it's like to have a systematic study of the Bhagavad Gita, and then there is a thematic study of the books also. But usually I strongly suggest all the devotees to first start with systematic study. Don't get into the topics first or the thematic study, because unless we understand the bigger picture and unless we understand the whole thing, then just going into some of the details would not give us the depth that we would be able to get, and it will not give us the detailed understanding of the philosophy. And actually we could be easily diverted into some kind of I like these topics better, and because of that, let's just read only about those things. And then we would be very limited in our understanding and limited in our preaching. And I think it is important to, so there is a time when devotees can get into topics or learning and studying different topics in scripture. But first, let's start with understanding the books, Srila Prabhupada's books, through systematic study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're emphasizing the importance of really get a bigger picture. Like, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam, to really understand the flow of the Bhagavatam, how the different stories and build up. Of course, especially with the Bhagavatam, I think for many devotees, if you look at the Bhagavatam, 18,000 shlokas, it's like, where should I start? Of course, you can start in the beginning, but how will I ever end? So it seems to be like a huge task to study. I mean, what would you suggest to devotees who have this feeling like, you know, how can I ever read the whole Bhagavatam?
Well, use your time while you are not married and you do not have children. Use your time efficiently. And all the time that grihastas spend on socializing and being together and attending children and all of these things, just use that time to study. Of course, everyone needs to have some parties sometimes and all of these things. But, you know, I was really fortunate to be in a temple where study was emphasized really much. So all the brahmacharis who were there and all the brahmacharinis who were there, they read the Bhagavad Gita every year. They read the whole Bhagavatam every year. Some of us in some of the brahmacharis, we just read the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita every year. And I mean, if you spend only 1 hour reading, not studying, but reading, you can finish the Bhagavad Gita, you can finish the Bhagavatam, and probably you can finish the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because, well, you know, I studied speed reading, and I taught that also in some places. I'm not a professional speed reader or anything like that at all. I just share my understanding of speed reading with others. And I mean, that's just so useful when we are reading. Even when we are reading and not studying. And for study, it is really good because when you read the whole book and then you have an overall picture of what's where in the book, then with speed reading, you can just skim through the whole thing really quickly and you can slow down where you would like to really deeply get into the thing and just cross-reference things from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Srila Prabhupada's classes, or from your own spiritual master's classes. So it's just such an important tool in the toolkit of a devotee. It's not just the bead bag and the book. It's also some of these skills that can be developed, I mean, quite quickly, quite rapidly, like speed reading. Just imagine. So if you can increase your reading speed by 50%, and that's not much, 50%, then you can read, I mean, 50% more pages in the same amount of time. So in an hour, if you read like 30 pages, let's say, that's a slow reader. That's how I was reading. And that's how I still read English. Hungarian, I read much faster. But if you add speed reading to that, and you know how to do that, you can read 45 pages in an hour. Just imagine 45 pages in an hour, and you read an hour a day. That would mean that you can read a 500 pages, 450 pages book in how many days? In 10 days, if I count it correctly. So that means in 10 days, you can read the whole Bhagavad Gita with all the purports and everything in 10 days. I mean, that's like 10 days, that's the Bhagavad Gita. Then we have 12 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If we, how many books is that? It's 12 books until the 10th canto, then there are 6, then let's say 20 books. 20 books. So that means that you can read those 20 books quite quickly, actually. 20 books, 10-day a book. Then it's 200 days. So it's 210 days. We just got a bit over half year and you already read the Bhagavad Gita and the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Then you just add the rest and you read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita also. And it's only in 1 year. So there are some skills that are really handy to be developed. And it's easy. If you practice speed reading, there is a really watered down version of speed reading. You can just have that. That's 45 minutes. I had dyslexic people tripling their reading speed in 45 minutes. I mean, it's just, it can be done. And then it's easy to read. Well, there is this other thing in regards to reading. And just please interrupt me because I can just go on and you will not get to the questions. So there is this other thing that devotees are reading many different kinds of books. Spiritual books. They are reading different spiritual masters' books and all of these things. And I always try to ask the devotees, please ask your Diksha Guru whether you can read a book or not. Have a written permission from your spiritual master that you can read someone else's book. Other than that, just read Prabhupada's books. I mean, just read them. And once you think that you understand it to a level that you could add another reading so that you can deepen your knowledge about the philosophy, ask your spiritual master. Ask your spiritual master. I mean, I'm here in Hungary. And Shivaram Maharaj is, he's almost everyone's Diksha Guru.
And he's writing many books, right?
He's writing many books. And he is my Shiksha Guru also. So I'm a disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Govinda Swami. Before I started reading Shivaram Maharaj's books, I just had a conversation with him. What do you think? Can I? Shall I? Is it okay for me? And then I started reading. So
this is an interesting aspect you mentioned here. I mean, first you spoke about speed reading, like just try to apply efficient tools that help us to increase our ability to read. And you also spoke about we should use our brahmachari time, or the time before getting married. And it boils down to actually making priority, to really understand the importance and prioritize reading. And now the last point you made is about getting permission from one's guru. That's also interesting in the sense of taking this humble mood and submissive mood and kind of getting the blessings to study and understand that actually our main duty, the main focus should be Prabhupada's books. And if we want to read something else, then we should be, think about it twice. That's an interesting point you made. In regard to speed reading, I don't know, when I hear it, I have not practiced yet, but I'm curious to learn.
We can set up a Zoom call, and if you're interested, I can share speed reading.
So maybe we could arrange a seminar. Now, right. Some of the viewer maybe doubt, well, speed reading, then it's maybe more about quantity. What about the quality? If we do speed reading, do we still absorb enough to actually, know what we have read?
Well, if you're not, then you're not speed reading, you're just speed paging.
All right.
The importance of reading is that you know what you read.
So if you do it properly, then you should also, be able to absorb.
Comprehension should not be an issue when you're speed reading. And of course, if you would like to study and stop and cross-reference and understand it from many different angles, then you're not reading a book, you're studying. And it's really hard to study one book just in itself, because you try to understand the bigger picture. So definitely there will be other books also. So it's not just you're just going through and you're just reading. It's just you have to study. But for reading, speed reading, I would definitely suggest it to everyone.
And in general, how do you make sure that you're learning to apply what you have read? Because at the end of the day, reading is meant to, should bring about a transformation of the heart, and should also make us apply what we have read. Would you like to share some realizations on that, how to live according to the book? And
it is a very important question. Thank you for that. Well, if we don't apply what we read, then it's just reading for leisure. And for me, the best way to apply the philosophy in practice is to put me in a situation or in a position where others can correct me. So here the Sadhguru Shastra principle comes in. So whatever I read in the Shastra and whatever is said by the Guru, I try to apply those things, and I expect the sadhus around me to correct me if I'm not doing something according to Guru and Shastra. So this goes back to the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna speaks about the process of acquiring knowledge. And he starts that with Amma Nitvam Vadam Vitvam Ahimsak Shantirarjavam Acharya Pasana. So all of these qualities, it starts with being humble and being devoid of pride. So to be able to acquire Vigyan, not just Gyan, but Vigyan, these qualities are crucial. And it starts with humility. So if we purposefully and consciously do not put ourselves in a situation where others can correct us, then we will fail in understanding the application of the philosophy. It is a really important thing in Krishna consciousness and in any other place.
It's a very practical point you made, that we actually should live in an environment that supports that culture of feedback, and of course, especially from the seniors, that we are open for it. Not that, makes sense.
Well, there are so many questions in regards to how to become a better devotee and all of these things. The main thing is that if we are humble enough to accept feedback and accept correction, then we are in a safe position and we can advance in Krishna consciousness. If we think that we know everything and that we are the center of the world, then it will be really hard to advance in Krishna consciousness, although we could think that we are so advanced. And this goes back to reading also, reading different things, different books. We all met those devotees who dive into a topic and read from this and that and wherever, and they just come and they dump all their things on you. "Oh, you don't even know this. I have read 10 books on that topic." Well, those were not written by Prabhupada, but I read those books, so I know this topic really well. So, I mean, this just makes people proud. Mm-hmm. So whatever doesn't make us humble, that will not help us in Krishna consciousness. So it's there. What doesn't kill you make you stronger. That's the general idea. So what doesn't kill our Krishna consciousness is humility. So whatever helps us to be more humble, that is something that helps us in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, what doesn't make you humble will kill you. Spiritually, for sure.
I think it's a beautiful point in a sense that to read in the mood of a disciple, like to really, and also always maintain his loyalty to Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara, to read in that spirit. I would like to go back to the point you made about taking advantage of your brahmachari life. Now you're married, you have 2 beautiful daughters, and also you have taken up huge responsibility as a GPC secretary, and this is the highest leadership position within ISKCON. I mean, there must be so many responsibility that you have. Maybe you can give some advice for us, especially also those who are leaders, and I mean everyone else in Krishna consciousness who has families and job. Sometimes it's very difficult and hard to balance our work life, our family life, and then also finding time to read. How do you manage? How do you make sure that you have time every day to read Prabhupada's books beside of all the other responsibilities that you have?
I have to tell you, it is extremely hard. It is extremely hard. When we were brahmacharis, we thought that life is so hard. It's a piece of cake. It's just, you have time for whatever you would like to, and you can read a lot and study a lot. And well, that's what brahmachari life is for. So it is really great. And then in Grihastha life, you would need to apply what you have studied during brahmacharya. Because when you're a Grihastha, well, all of these regular scheduled reading and all of these things, these are out of the window. And you have to make like 100 times more effort to be able to find that time that will help you to be able to properly read and study Srila Prabhupada's books. But at the same time, we, the Grihasthas who have jobs, a lot of responsibility, and children and whatnot, we have to make sure that we have that time, because we need it much more than anyone else. Because Grihastha life, it's such a narrow path, and it's like we have to make sure that we balance these things. And balancing doesn't mean that each and every day I can do all the things. Balancing means that there is a right proportion in my life within these different things that I want to do. Usually I divide these things up into 4 parts: rest, race, recreation, and relationships. So rest meaning how much and how well and how relaxing your sleep. And rest is, race is the everyday race or rat race, that how people like to call it sometimes. The race that we do to maintain ourselves, and that includes everything. For devotees, it's service. For non-devotees, it's job or it's service to society, or all of these things. Practically, it's work. And then recreation. Recreation is anything that charges your batteries, because that's also important. And so many things can be recreational. Reading can be recreational, and just go out and have a campfire and just cook a nice prasadam and be with friends. That could also be recreational. And then relationships with the family, with also with ourselves. It's like there are these different levels of relationship with ourselves, our body and our mind, and how we keep it fit. And then the family, and then the larger society, and then with the environment, and then eventually our relationship with Krishna. So all of these things are really important to be properly balanced. And sometimes we can just get into the situation where we cannot read. But if it will become a habit not to read and not to study, then we are in a very bad situation. So what I usually suggest everyone, all the grihastas, is that use 2 times of the day for reading, not studying, but reading. And that is, you wake up and you just read. You just read. Even if you just read 1 verse, get the habit rolling. Have the book beside your bed. And I know it's not sattvic, it's not suchi, it's not, but if you fell into the trap of not reading every day, at least something, then just have the book beside your bed, and immediately as you wake up, don't do anything else. Don't look at your emails. Don't look at your phone or the news or Viber, WhatsApp, whatever messages you could have. Stop that and just take the book and read. Read something. And then before you fell asleep, have the book and just read a couple of verses. And once you have this as a habit, when you develop this as a habit, then just add it to your daily schedule. Wake up 30 minutes earlier, go out, make your bed, take a shower, dress up, and sit down and read for 30 minutes. Just do it gradually. Do not be a person who just jumps into something. Yes, from today on or from tomorrow on, I will read 1 hour and I will wake up so early and this and that. Just don't do that. That's nonsense. It will not work because there is no sattva guna in it. It is rajogun. It is only the creational part, but not the maintenance part. We have to get into the maintenance part, and that is a really heavy, strong work, and that should be built up. And as you build it up, then it will gradually get to the point of being shuchi and being sattvagun and have a completely regulated life. Even though you're a grihasta, you're working somewhere, you have your own profession, you have your own business and all of these things. So start developing the habit first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the point of just doing something regularly, even if it's not as much as you maybe would like, but just do it every day. And then in this way, as you said, make it a habit. And then naturally, if we start to read, we want to read more at some point, then naturally our reading will increase just by sticking to it regularly. Thank you. Yeah, that's a wonderful point.
And gradually it will develop to a degree that you will be able to read in the morning, in the evening, and during the day you will study. There is this other thing that if you could go through the book systematically, at least once, or at least the Bhagavad Gita, if not the whole Bhagavatam, but at least the Bhagavad Gita and the first canto of the Bhagavatam, then whatever you do in life, no matter what your service, what your job, what your work is, what your business is, you can develop certain approaches to that business through Srila Prabhupada's books. So incorporate Prabhupada's books in your everyday life. It really doesn't matter what you do. You can always incorporate Srila Prabhupada's teachings in your life. So, I mean, you could be a ticket collector on a train. I mean, who cares? You can always include Srila Prabhupada's books in your life. Just understanding what is the right mood, what is the right perception. And I mean, you can even make YouTube videos about how to be a ticket collector on a train based on Prabhupada's books, because that will force you to study Prabhupada's books and to make something of it, because it's just so important that we share what we know.
Prabhu, if I may ask you, how do you think that ISKCON would be different, let's say, in the next 5 years, 10 years, if actually all the members of ISKCON every day read Srila Prabhupada's books? What an impact would that have on our movement? What do you think?
Well, one thing would definitely be developing, and that is understanding of the philosophy and the application of it. And as much as it would increase, then gossip would decrease. Mm-hmm. And I really think that studying Srila Prabhupada's books will give us a character that will change the world. So if everyone for the next 5 years would read Srila Prabhupada's books every day, then we would be really leading the way and setting the trend in many different ways in the world. Spiritually, religious-wise, environmentally, educational-wise, in so many areas of life.
I like the point that reading actually can develop our character. The more we read, the more we understand, the more we try to apply. Now, when we spoke about application, you several times mentioned the importance of Sangha, of association with other devotees. And of course, you also mentioned in your ashram, all of the brahmacharis were reading, so that helped you also. So certainly association is very important. In this regard, maybe to slowly come to an end of this conversation, I'd like to ask you about your personal experience in experiencing the association of Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada made that statement that he will forever live in his books. And we know that if we read Prabhupada's books regularly, we actually have a chance to associate with Prabhupada directly. Would you like to share some experiences, or how do you meet Srila Prabhupada in his books?
Well, the more we read Srila Prabhupada's books, the more we will admire Srila Prabhupada. And as we read the books, we are associating with Srila Prabhupada in a way that will be very personal to each and every one of us. Because each and every one of us has a different nature, a different focus. And because of this, we will have a different relationship with Srila Prabhupada through his books. And when we read, then that relationship with Srila Prabhupada will deepen. And I really believe that depth of associating with Srila Prabhupada will determine the future of ISKCON. because, well, we all know that Srila Prabhupada's disciples are not getting younger. And while they are with us, we would need to, well, it sounds pretty bad, but we would need to take advantage of their association. Because they had both the Vani and the Vapu. So we, the next generation, who did not have the opportunity to meet Srila Prabhupada in person, we can have that association with Srila Prabhupada through his books and have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada through his books. And that relationship will be an individual relationship with him. And you know, all of the books that Srila Prabhupada gave us are the, well, we say that these are the law books for the next 10,000 years. I mean, it is so important for us. If we look at the different kings, different leaders of ancient India, and I mean, we see that none of the kings, none of the leaders have ever made any law. What they did is that they were studying the scriptures, and that was the law. The scripture was the law, and the leaders were there to apply the scriptures in practice. And that's why they had to have such an enormous amount of knowledge. Like Yudhishthir Maharaj and Bhishma Dev, and I mean, so great amount of knowledge. And you know, they were just applying, they were not making law. They were applying the scriptures in everyday life. And Brahmanas were there to explain the scriptures in a way that the leaders were able to apply those in practice. And that's why the leaders were always dependent on the Brahmanas. So it's just the application of Srila Prabhupada's books in our everyday life means that we apply the law book for the next 10,000 years in our everyday life. And that is only possible if we know the books, if we study them regularly, if we are among those devotees who understand the books, and we are forcing ourselves to be among those devotees who can correct us. Because many people are really afraid of failure, and that is not good. We have to grasp the idea of we are failing forward. Whenever we fail, we have to understand what we did wrong, and we have to move forward. And if we put ourselves in a situation where no one can touch us, no one can tell us, no one can correct us, then we are in a very bad situation. So application of Srila Prabhupada's books and associating with Srila Prabhupada through his books are not separatable.
That's why we speak of the Grantha Bhagavat and the Bhakta Bhagavat, the book, the scripture, and the person who lives according to the scriptures. Thank you so much, Radha Krishna Prabhu. I don't know whether you have a last message, last verse you'd like to share with the viewers. I mean, we spoke about many things. We covered and heard many valuable insights and realizations from you.
Well, just one thing what we always have to keep in mind, and that is that the ultimate goal is to fully surrender. So we will be able to serve Krishna when we give up all the attachment to everything else. And I always have that verse from Bali Maharaj in my mind. The Yajyuttamaśloka bhavam mameritam vacho vyalikam suravarya manyate karomritam tanna bhavet pralambanam padam tritiyam kurushirshni me nijam. Please put your third step on my head. That is how we should surrender. And we cannot have that surrender unless we read Srila Prabhupada's books. That's it.
Thank you so much. Reading Prabhupada's books, having his association and understanding the goal of life. Thank you, Radha Krishna Prabhu, for sharing your valuable time and realization with us.
Thank you so much, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.